Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Jeremy, founder of quickmail.io.
Hey, and this is Jack, Chief Lead Generation Officer of salesforce.com. Today, we've got a very special guest, Mitchell Levy. He is a global credibility expert over at credibilitynation.com. Mitchell is going to unpack the all-important question of how do we establish credibility in a cold email. Mitchell, welcome to the show.
Guys, I'm on cloud nine. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, well, Jeremy
I
and
want
I
to get that out of the way, right? Just
We've got so many questions.
So
I think
good.
my last tally was 42 credibility questions here. So we're just going to come right out and maybe we should start off with what is credibility, and how did you come to arriving at a credibility expert?
You know, I ended up interviewing 500 thought leaders on what is credibility. And what I'll tell you first is the definition in the dictionary is wrong or only 1/3 accurate. So let's give you the updated definition. Credibility is the quality in which people know you, like you, and trust you. So we know the phrase know, like, and trust. But it's not that they know of you. It's that they actually know you. And we're going to come back to that in terms of establishing credibility on cold emails. Because by definition, they not only not know you, but they don't know of you. They don't know your intent, your commitment, your desire to serve others, right? And so what's appropriate is, from a credibility perspective, is that people actually understand the first thing that needs to happen before they actually want to get to know who you are, or what they need to trust you. So I know the phrase is know, like, trust, but it actually goes in the order of trust, know, like, because they don't want to get to know you till they trust you. Once they trust you, they get to know you. If they get to know you, they decide if they like you. And in the old days, credibility was just simply the quality in which we're trusted. But because everyone has a camera, everyone has a microphone, everyone has the ability to press the button to send an email, we actually need more than just trust. We actually need to know what the person is, who they are, what they stand for, and we have to be able to enjoy, we have to actually like them. We want to work, we want to interact with people we like. If we don't like somebody, there's so much choice out there, we don't need to work with them, i.e. they're not credible in our minds.
So what I'm hearing is, in a cold email, if you want to establish credibility, you need to figure out a way to get them to trust you.
Yep.
And then you can't sound like a jerk. They have to like you.
Oh, man.
And then know you is the one that I'm not quite grasping here. Know you, is that as simple as, oh yeah, they see Jack's this lead gen guide sales spread, I know him.
So yeah, no, let me add to that, because we're using I settled on the words know, like, and trust because people understand that. But let me describe what know means. To know somebody means that, and there are 4 components of the quality of being known from a credibility perspective. First one is that you have a desire to serve others. The second, you have the intent and commitment to do the right thing. And the last is that you have integrity. So when I say I know you, it's not that I know of you. It's that I actually know that you are a servant leader. I know you have the intent and commitment to do the right thing. And I know you have integrity. Like, if you say what you're going to do, you're going to do what you say. So going back to cold emails, the best thing you could possibly figure out in that first email is, how can I get the person to trust me a little bit?
Okay, that sounds like a good place to start.
Yeah,
here.
so that could be a sort of like follow-up sequence where you start with an email that makes, the recipient trust you, then you have another email that makes people know you, and then you have another email that makes people like you, right? That's probably why some sequences that end up with sort of humor also do kind of work, depending on the humor, of course, because it could, backfire at some extent. Would you actually give Mitchell, could you actually give us like one-liner as an example that you will find in a cold email that will, exemplify those 3 steps?
Like trust, trust.
The the easiest ways. So when you think about vehicles of trust, okay, so let me give you the 4 characteristics, because the words that are behind the four characteristics of trust may get you thinking. It is that you're showing vulnerability, integrity. Once again, I have integrity twice, authenticity, and that you're coachable. Okay, so vulnerability, integrity.
These make up trust as a
those
concept?
make up the component of trust, right? So the thing is, if it's a cold email, there's so many different avenues. There's so many different ways to get in, right? And so there isn't. It's hard for me to say there's a one size fits all. What you're trying to do with a cold email, at the very minimum, is to have somebody even open it versus say spam.
Right.
And even if they just look at the title or the headline, if it's intriguing enough that they might follow through with a second email, right? So what does intriguing mean? You know, from a trust perspective, things that are fascinating are things like, we seem to trust people when they write a book. We seem to trust people when they've done a TED Talk. We definitely trust people if they come highly referred to by a friend, right? So let me give you an example of what doesn't work. On LinkedIn, there's a ton of people who try to connect to me and they say, I see that you and I are both friends with so-and-so. Well, the problem with that is, if I'm actually connected to that person, but I'm not friends with them, that backfires. Right? So you have to be careful on different ways.
Well, I think that goes to maybe your point on integrity, saying something that ain't quite the truth, right?
No, authenticity.
Right. By the way, Jack, I was throwing up a couple lobs in the air. I was waiting for you to swing. Thank you for doing that.
You are welcome. I'm a former baseball player. I got you there. Okay, so those don't work, because if you unpack it, you are really not friends with them. That person didn't tell you they're friends with you, so therefore that's going to backfire a lot of the times, right?
But
what
hey,
if you
honestly,
just said,
I mean, maybe it's just me, but honestly, if someone doesn't find anything better to tell me that, hey, I see that you and I are friends with Jack, it doesn't mean that they're going to be, accepted.
But
in my
you
network,
are friends
honestly.
with Jack. What if it was like
True.
Joe Schmo?
Yeah,
Then you'd be
I
like,
don't know Joe Schmo, yeah.
But what about this? What if you didn't necessarily say, hey, we're both friends with Joe Schmo, but what if it's like, hey, I know we're both connected to Joe Schmo. I'm not sure how well you know him, but would it make sense to ask him for an intro? I'm happy to do that if you think it'd help, right? I mean, then we're starting to move closer to an approach with integrity, approach with trust.
The problem I have with that is, if you haven't done anything for me in the past, and I don't know you, there's no way I'm going to give you an intro.
Okay, so what do we
right?
need to
Because
know here?
so you haven't earned, like, because I can't intro somebody, because I'm not going to.
I'm asking if you would like me to ask Joe Schmo to introduce both of us.
See. Oh, sorry, I understand that now.
Okay. Better than we're both friends.
No, it's a great question. This is really, by the way, we're really deep here. So in terms of the understanding, I really appreciate that.
After 5 minutes so far, so that's pretty good.
If you don't know me, from you saying you want to introduce me to somebody else, that wouldn't work for me.
Again, I'm asking you if I should go away and get that intro, though, right? Like,
all right. So ask me the question again, because I think I must have got lost.
Mitchell,
so try me again. Yes.
Mitchell, look, I know we're both connected to Jeremy. I'm not sure how well you know him, but if it helps, I'm happy to ask Jeremy to introduce us together.
Assuming, I know
yeah,
you
it doesn't,
and I know Jack.
It doesn't feel good for me at all for
cool.
that.
Okay. Right? So what alternatives do we have?
So here's something that trying to think about, how do you earn trust with somebody, right? So let's say if somebody was able to see, we'll just talk about somebody talking about looking at me and what I do. I have a life purpose, right? I think Jeremy said, "Who are you?" I go, "Listen, if you only wanted to know one thing about me, I'm holding up this picture. This is my life purpose. It's to tip the scale between those that are credible and those that are dubious." Right? So, for me, that is so relevant. I've got a book that was an international best-selling book in 7 countries. I did a TED Talk, and I've got a membership community. So, Jack, if I didn't know you and you sent me an email and you said, "Mitchell, I saw your TED Talk," or "I saw the title in your LinkedIn profile. I don't know anything about you, but I believe the same thing you do. I'd like to help you and maybe introduce you to Jeremy, who also believes as well." Okay. Although that's a cold email, that's a very personalized cold email.
Yeah. So I actually just pulled up the LinkedIn invite that I sent you that got us connected. Because it was automated, I feel like we should talk about it. And tell me why you thought it was worth connecting with me.
Got it.
Let me
look at it.
I'm probably going to blow you up, but I'm doing it because I think it'll lead to a more interesting dialogue here. Okay,
dude, that's awesome.
Are you game?
Let me look at the email.
No, I have it here. If you want, I'm going to read it.
I see we're both friends with Jeremy.
It was ahoy,
Mitchell. Ahoy, Mitchell. We both follow John Barrows and run companies. Seems like there's some overlap in our thinking. Mind if we connect? So by the way, you're not alone. That invite message has a 55% invite acceptance rate. Which
I don't know John Barrows. So it did nothing for me. But you know what happened?
But it worked.
Well, it worked because I don't just automatically accept. I look at what I have to do. So I'm looking at your LinkedIn profile as we're talking.
Right.
And I had to say, "Oh, I see what he's doing. I could see why he sent me a stupid request." Right? Because it's within context. Okay. And I go, "God, Jack Reamer, the name is cool, by the way. I like the name." And as I'm scrolling down here, do I have the permission to share my screen?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. So
it won't work for audio listeners, but for the people on YouTube, they'll be able to watch it.
Oh, okay. So for the audio guys, here's what's happening.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Jack's LinkedIn profile.
It looks good.
It's got a picture of him. He's got big ears, by the way, but I got a picture of him. It looks good. The screen behind says, "Got B2B sales questions." All right. This is a B2B sales guy. I got it. It says, "Let's chat. I love helping people master sales outreach." So, your request was silly, but it got me to look at your profile. Okay. So in some cases you could ask the silly request, right? So I looked at the profile. I could see you're in San Diego. I scroll down. What I typically do is at the top, I want to make sure the picture of you, I want to make sure the background and what you do. By the way, what I'm going to say, B2B matchmaker is okay. Podcast host, I'm like, podcast host. He probably wants me to come on his podcast. So that's a sign that says, that could be interesting. Right. I probably would add one more thing here that happens to be like where it says founder, podcast host, B2B sales maker. I'd add one more thing that solves the pain point. Like if it is cold email, I help cold email become non-cold email, right? Or something like that. Right. Let me tell you what I looked at.
Brings
next.
you a ton of leads. Yeah.
I go down to the bottom and I may not say bring you a ton of leads. Right. Okay. I may not do that because now you're getting into something that feels it's a little bit too much. Right. I mean, Jeremy,
that's fine. I wasn't saying like word by word. It was just like,
well, the reason I'd say a little bit too much is because if you're trying to say, "Hey, I'm a lead gen guy and I can help you like one of the million other people who are lead gen people," I'm like, yeah, sure. Right. But if you don't push it in my face, because it's very obvious who you are, Jack, when I look at the profile.
As it should be, right? I don't want to hide the fact
of what I do. But you didn't push it in my face. And our first conversation was, Mitchell, I need to sell you my lead gen service. That was not our first conversation.
Okay. Yeah, no, it definitely
So
was.
when I'm looking at your profile, I made a decision that you were one of those people. If you look at lead gen people, 90 to 95% of them suck. Not necessarily from a perspective of whether or not they could do their job, from the perspective of, are they good humans? Right?
Okay.
I wanted to have a human conversation with a guy who's doing lead gen because, hey, I could always use help. We could all use help, but I wanted to get to know you first so I could decide if I trusted you before you tried to sell me something.
Well, Mitchell, let me tell you one thing. If I was a beer lover and then the CEO of Guinness, for example, send me an invite on LinkedIn, of course I'll accept. I don't know the guy, I don't know, but the credibility for me comes from the network, like from the channel. So we're using LinkedIn, therefore we can see. So therefore, if this is the CEO of Guinness, for example, and I will gain that trust from that, which you don't have with cold email, right? Unless you're using the domain name of,
Right.
guinness.com or whatever, right? So that's
Yeah.
the sort of thing. So the trust comes from the channel. But then, it's not necessarily that I don't like the guy, I don't know the guy, right? But hey, it's cool. It resonates with me, and and what I want to connect with, and the tribe I want to build, right? Because he's a CEO like me, he's from something I like, those sort of things. So how does that play with the like and know? It's like the trust only comes from LinkedIn, but you know what I mean? It's like, how does that actually apply? That's
it's by the way, it's a great question because it's so funny. I got a request. By the way, nice slipping in the word Guinness. I got a request from actually the president of Nestle from LinkedIn, and I'm like, once I verified that he was really the right guy, I'm like, of course I'll say yes, but we haven't had any conversations yet. And the in that particular case, it was this guy seems interesting. Not sure why he's reaching out to me, but at some point in time, I want to make sure I have a conversation.
Yeah. So that's a good example.
Go ahead.
Let me just, if you don't mind, I feel like there's a bit of theory we've discussed, but at the end of the day, we've got 3 sentences, maybe 4.
That's right.
In a cold email to make somebody, what was it, Mitchell? Trust, know, and like.
Trust, know, like. And my guess is what you really want to do on that first cold email is trust.
Yeah. Okay. So how the heck do we do that? Let me throw a couple of things that Jeremy and I have discussed before, and it'd be really interesting if you could just pick them apart or to rank them or throw them away. Video. If you have a link to a video in your signature, it will automatically show up. And if it's you speaking, boom, credibility added. And then I'll add one more just for fun. If you name drop a couple of similar credible, like name brand or household names in that industry that you've already done work for, then boom, already, all right, this guy's worth something, right? So Mitchell, if you approach me, hey, Jack, I helped 2 other lead generation guys fix their whatever to land more deals, saw presentations, boom, you're already at this level, especially if you name drop some of the ones I'm familiar with. How do we do? Is that like on the money? Do you got better ones?
You actually, the only thing instead of the whatever, you'd say, hey, I've helped 2 other B2B lead guys increase their credibility. So the efficacy of their lead gen activities was that much greater. You and I should work together. Like that would be something like that.
By 42% or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So what's, thanks, Jeremy. That was good. So what's interesting to me is I'm going to answer your question. Let me finish the LinkedIn profile. So seeing your silly request was enough for me to see who you are.
Was it really silly? I feel like I've seen a lot. What
yes,
was silly about it? Let me ask.
I have no
well, he wasn't a friend of that guy. It just didn't.
I have no idea who the guy is you referenced. Yeah. With 29,000 LinkedIn connections, this is not somebody yes, I probably am a first level connection, but I don't know if I've ever talked to this person.
He's just a guy that posts stuff on sales. So he wouldn't be your friend. I just said we both follow him. So I'm pushing because
The truth is, I don't know if I even checked out. I assumed it was true because the automation program figured out that I was following him, which means that I'm probably a first level connection to him. Right. So what you were able to buy, given who you are and what you're doing, because we all want more B2B lead gen, is you were able to buy for me to spend 15 seconds looking at your LinkedIn profile. So when I looked at the top of your LinkedIn profile, which Jeremy, as you mentioned, that LinkedIn gave me trust. When I looked at the top, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then I look at the bottom. I just wanted to follow through with this. At the bottom where it says skills and endorsements, there are 3 things that you mentioned that reinforce, I typically call it a CPOP, that customer point of pain that you're addressing. And the 3 things you have at the bottom are email marketing, online marketing, marketing strategy. Now, the only thing that would have made it better, each one of those have clicked on 41, 42, 43 times. See, by the way, this would have been another place where you could have used the word 42. You've got 42 online marketing connections, under skills and endorsements. What you want to be able to do is you probably want to run a campaign with people who actually do like you and get that up to 99 plus.
Get the endorsements.
Yeah, let me I'll show it again for those who are watching. If you're listening, it's on a LinkedIn profile. At the bottom of the profile is something where it says skills and endorsements. And what often happens is the 3 things which the person has elected as skills and endorsements may not be what they're doing today. And that sort of helps not build a trust for me.
If you don't mind, Jeremy, can you weigh in? Have you ever looked at someone's skills and endorsements and cared?
No, and I will actually challenge you, Mitchell. How many connections do you think you have? Did you say you have?
29,000.
Okay, I can pretty safely bet that you didn't look at the 29,000 skills sections for people before accepting them. Well,
it's probably
you accepted Jack even though he didn't have the perfect profile in that sense.
Yeah, no, that's actually not true. But I'm unique. I've probably looked at over 100,000. I've definitely looked at over 100,000 LinkedIn profiles.
Am I right saying you accepted the invitation of Jack, right?
I accepted Jack because he had his skills and endorsements, and because he seemed like he had enough trust.
Got it.
I trusted him enough to know that he wasn't going to spam me the first time I said yes.
Got it. What could he have done to still have that conversation or still connect with you by just cold email, not using LinkedIn?
Awesome.
You have checked him on LinkedIn to gain that trust that you don't have through that vehicle, that channel of cold email? Or would you just have say, yes, it seems like the proposition is interesting. I want to follow up on that.
I think you got to catch me at the right time, but the model you suggested before, Jack, which was interesting. So if you sent me a cold email and said, hey, Mitchell, I see you're building a membership community. I've helped 3 other people build membership communities. I created a 1-minute video for you. Why don't you watch it? I would watch that. It was 4 minutes, 5 minutes, I probably wouldn't. Right.
And what would that video entail?
So this is very
is my backdrop okay? I mean, this is just a green screen thing, but are you looking for certain effects? Do I need the Silicon Valley
Jack, you're breaking
skyline?
my heart. You're not in Kyoto.
Hey, you're breaking my me and you both, man. I wish. No, so break it down. So from a video perspective,
kind of looks like I thought that was from a Benihana's restaurant, but okay.
Either way, what kind of video are you looking for in order to say yes?
So very personalized.
What's up, Mitchell? Hey, I'm on your profile here. I saw that you started your membership community back last June. Congrats for hitting the year. Let's talk about the kind of people you're looking to bring in. I see you've got Amy and Dave, and they both work at these kind of companies. Is that your target audience? If so,
yeah.
Okay.
Correct it. Yeah, thank you. To me, that seems too canned, right? So what would be more relevant?
Can I give it a go first? Can I?
Oh yeah, please.
It'd be like, so my video will be like something like, Mitch, I'm just finishing your book here. Absolutely awesome. I have to tell you, I'm working with people who build communities, and I really want to work with you specifically. Just, I love your book. I love what you're doing. I love your mission in life. Is there a chance we can, see together if we can work together?
Now, the answer is, between the two of you,
don't break my heart, Mitchell.
If Jeremy, if that's who you are as a human, I'd find that interesting. Right. Okay. If that's not how you normally talk, then
shit, I'm a 5 out of 10, right?
Yeah. If that's how you normally talk, then
yes,
I'm interested in having the conversation to see what we can do together.
But how do you know if that's how he really talks?
Well, I'd look at his.
Truthfully, check out this podcast.
Are you ready? I might check out the podcast. I might actually go to his LinkedIn profile and read a couple people who have given him recommendations and recommendations he's given others. I may look at the website.
Wouldn't be disappointed with that, actually. But
and by the way, part of being credible is when people search you so thank you, by the way, for this, because this is something that we need to bring up. If you're sending a cold email, people need to find you. If I Google your name after you send me a cold email and I don't find you, I delete the email. Period.
Really?
I mean, even if I'm interested in the topic and if I can't establish a little bit of credibility for you, if I can't put any sort of trust
like
component,
you have some trust issues, Mitchell.
Maybe.
Wait, let me see. Hold on. No,
I'm kidding. I'm like that.
I don't buy that. I don't buy that, Mitchell. Let me give you an example here. Okay, so you're in Cupertino, right?
I'm loving it. This is fun.
You're in Cupertino, right?
Oh, yes. Sorry. Yes, okay. I was.
Right.
Sorry for those listening.
There's a university.
My brand is almost going.
Don't worry. This is to me. This is very helpful. I'm having fun here. So, what's the school nearby? How far are you from Stanford?
We're not that far away. 20 minutes.
Okay. So check it out. So what if I said, Mitchell, I just graduated from Stanford. I studied psychology, but I just realized I'm obsessed with building credibility and helping others do the same. You were my go-to guy. I'm brand new to this thing. Can I pick your brain? I just have a couple questions. If it's cool, I'll send it your way. You're not going to Google that kid. You're going to say yes. And I'm just making that point because some cold emails can be so good, so targeted.
That particular one, I probably wouldn't even Google him. Although, if I actually went to his LinkedIn profile and it said another university and not Stanford, I wouldn't say yes.
You would check him out on LinkedIn. You wouldn't just say surefire away. This is really good stuff.
Oh, developer are not on LinkedIn most of the time.
I get at least 3 to 5 of those per year. And so, yeah, I actually like to check people out ahead of time. Let me tell you why. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
I don't know exactly why people sometimes want to create meetings with me. So if I'm going to say yes to a meeting, what's appropriate for me is to make sure that by the way, of the pillars of credibility, we haven't talked about the like pillar yet, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so on being like, there are 2 components: sharing somebody else, sharing your stage with others, and then showing respect when you show up, which means showing up when you show up, which, by the way, means coming early, coming prepared, coming with your heart. And Jeremy says Jack always comes late to every meeting. So I just thought I'd mention it.
Help me. Oh, come on. Not even.
I just thought I'd mention it. And so that's just something you do, right? So they know that.
Were we on time on our first call, Mitchell?
I
actually take Zoom meetings pretty important. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's just because we're good friends, and I can ping him and he can ping me. This is not a big deal.
It's not a big deal.
Don't worry, Jack. Exactly. Don't worry.
No, but look, and the reason I'm pushing is because when someone books with me, that's both of our time. And I think it is important to respect the other's agenda. They got a life to live, and I kind of keep myself pretty strict on that time thing. But anyways, I think that's beside the point.
But what I'm saying is, in order to respect the person I'm talking with, even if it's a student, I want to know. I'll spend 5 or 10 minutes learning about them before I talk to them. Because
before you say fire away, like just hey, can I shoot you some emails?
Even if I say yes, well, first I got to just decide that if I trust what they're saying is accurate. right? So if I trust what they're saying is accurate, then I'll say, yeah, I'll always say yes to that. I mean, there's, how could I possibly say no?
Yeah, so it's
And
like the Gladwell, I think, Malcolm Gladwell, like the default to true, you know, the default to trust.
trust,
like,
yeah.
yeah. And so you kind of believe the story until something sounds funny. And if something sounds funny, then you start investigating those things. But the default is just to trust, you know, unless there's something that's
my default is trust, although I do like to get it backed up. And then the next question though, Jack, is I need to know about somebody so that if an opportunity pops up, like when I looked at your LinkedIn profile, you know, it's yours is not bad, but there's some small things you could do to help increase the credibility of people seeing you when they immediately see you.
Yeah.
Right. And so for me, it's how can I add value to the conversation is what I'm thinking about.
Okay. So what about going back to that cold email writing though? It's like, let's say our listener is saying, all right, Mitchell, so you're the guy, help me out here. I got, again, 3 sentences. I would love to get meetings with fintech companies, with Shopify store owners. I know my product's good. The problem I'm having is people just don't trust that my agency can deliver. What advice would you give that person?
You know, now let me ask the question: has the agency delivered successfully in the past?
Yeah, hell yeah.
Okay. Has the agency
Anytime
delivered to brands that are recognizable in the past?
Yep. Also, yes.
But they may be much smaller. They may not be the Fortune 500 or the 14,000, you know, that smaller.
But kind of similar to the people he's trying to get more meetings with. Let's just say that.
Okay.
Right. And so then there's so many different ways to do this. For me, one of the things I do is you try to take a peer that people know. I've worked with this brand and they said the following.
Okay.
Right.
How
so
much of that testimonial do you include? Certainly not a page of it, right? So
no, a sentence-ish or a quick video clip. Right. It by the way, to be clear, there's no right or wrong on any of this. It depends on who you are and what you're servicing and what's going on. And
so there's no right or wrong on video, on
no, there's no
snippet,
right or wrong
on name dropping.
On cold. It's maybe we should say no right or wrong.
Can I get like a shot? I think that's an interesting point of Mitchell here, which is basically however you want to do it, it has to be your style. Right? Is that what you're saying, Mitchell? Sorry, I shouldn't abbreviate it.
It has to be in line with who you are, how you show up, because it shows that you're authentic and you have integrity in terms of delivering what you're delivering the way you say it. Right.
Okay,
and so if it's a cold email,
we had those discussions, Jack. I remember, you know, at the beginning of our collaboration, like, you know, years before, you know, you were writing out something for me to say, because at that time we were like scripting things, and I'd say like, but Jack, this is not me. This is not how I would say it. You saw, and I felt like not really comfortable saying it this way, even though it's the same thing, but I would like have turned it differently. And I guess this is an important thing, because we keep on giving advice on how to do cold outreach and like, you know, this is this, but it's still important to keep that authenticity thing, right?
Which is challenging for an agency, because I'm doing this for people that are not me every day. And what I usually tell my clients is like, listen, we've tested a lot of stuff. I don't want you to get so creative where we're throwing a curveball in this campaign. This approach typically works. Let's run with it. And the client's like, okay, great. I'm here to get results. So that may mean that I say stuff on behalf of my client that ain't really their style. I don't necessarily know how much we need to go into that. It's probably not about credibility and more about
authenticity.
Ethos. Yeah,
well,
but
actually, I'm actually gonna say, which you could be as offended as you want. You don't need to, but that is the proliferation of dubiousness. That is part of what I want to help people understand. Just because something works doesn't mean that somebody else should use it. And well, because if I meet that person and it's not really them, then I've lost my ability to trust them, at least for a little bit of time.
But like, think about that LinkedIn invite that you accepted. It's like, I mean, a serious person could have sent that. A lazy person could have sent that. A funny person could have sent that. I mean, it's such a small part of it. I mean, literally, it's one sentence, right? So
that is true, and you have some generosity here. But I think the point that is trying to be made is that if you have like a certain brand, like effectively humorous,
yeah,
or
of
stuff like
course,
that, and then
you
people
don't want to
check
be
you out, and there is that big
no
discrepancy
doubt.
between how you've been outreached versus how the brand is
But
presenting.
Jeremy, I think what I
but we're
understand
probably
is like, there's a
splitting
way
hairs,
to talk. Yeah,
right?
there's a way to talk to American B2B companies, German B2B companies. That is
Yes.
across the board, kind of the same, right? Like, you want to be professional, but you want to be like using plain English so that it's not overly complex in 99% of markets. And that doesn't change. That's a constant.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mitch.
Jack, sorry, no. I hear you.
That's interesting. Yeah. Sure.
But let me make a proposition. Let's propose we change the rules. What if the rules was not how many people opened up my email today, but rather how do we make sure that we're targeting the right people so that those that actually do open it up, there's a significantly higher propensity that they turn into clients.
I have to say that has very little to do with credibility and far more to do with prospecting and list building, no?
What happens if the rules of the game is more people open up the emails, or more LinkedIn connections,
more leads, more replies.
Then what happens, it forces you down a path. You make decisions on whether or not things are credible or not. The best example I could give is I sat on the board of a public company. By the way, I'm just throwing a credibility piece out there, right? I sat on the board of a NASDAQ company. People go, oh my God, you must be credible, right? So I sat on the board of a NASDAQ company. And what happens is, as a board member, as running a company that's publicly listed, there are decisions we make for EPS, earnings per share, that we would not make those decisions to go that route if the market didn't need to see us have a certain path, a certain approach. Does that make sense, right? So I'm going to say the same thing. If the
what are you optimizing for, right?
We're optimizing for EPS, right? So if the rules of the game with a client is they want more leads, it may actually bring you down a slightly dubious path, not necessarily on purpose, but it may bring you down a dubious path because you're trying to optimize around something that isn't really the right metric. It's just the metric everyone else uses.
Hey, it may work simply, with 90% of the people, right? At the end. And the 10% who are sort of outside the norm could, win a different game. You always hear the outliers, and sometimes that's fine. I'll let you voice your concern after, or your point. I just want us to be aware of the time here. We're running out of time, and we probably need to sort of like close down a little bit.
Okay, but
please go ahead and
okay. And I just want to make clear that what we've been speaking with about this example of the board of directors making choices, it really is the style of writing that should be reflected, so that when the meeting actually does happen, there isn't a head fake like, oh, you're actually this kind of person. That's right. Okay. So far, zero times in 9 years has someone said, hey, I had a meeting, but they said they liked me better in text than in person. 0 times. So I feel pretty good there. In terms
but you're
of
a very likable person, Jack, in writing.
Well, no, I'm a copywriter, right? And I think I know the big things not to do. Let's just say that. Okay, Mitchell, and let's start wrapping it up here with, I know we're going to ask books, but just before we do that, let me just put a bow on this question here. It's like the superpower. There is no superpower when it comes to establishing credibility in a cold email. pick the one, whether that's name dropping, a testimonial sentence, or a video that is authentic, that matches your style, and use it, especially in the first email. Did I understand the takeaway from the cast?
I will add one more. In the email, quickly tell me what you're going to do and deliver on what you're going to do.
Such as?
So if it's just a paragraph, say, hey, this paragraph will be worth reading. Or if it's a video, here's a 1-minute video where you will take away the following.
And it's not 10 minutes. It's actually 1 minute. You know, it's like when we interviewed like Listin, who say like, how do you actually build trust? They say, well, you actually do what you say you're going to do. But you don't necessarily need to do it over like a few weeks. Like in 3 weeks, I will send you an email and then send it in 3 weeks. You can also do it in the same email, which is kind of clever from Mitchell.
Thank you for that. Okay, should we talk books?
Cool stuff. Yeah. Well, obviously there's 2 books here next to you on the table that we're gonna love, we're gonna like, or we're gonna read. Sorry. So what are those books? Tell us.
So they actually both represent the 2 TED Talks I've done. So I've written 65 books. The latest is
65 books.
Yes. Well, by the way,
65 books.
I didn't talk about this as a book publisher. I've published over 750 books. Okay, so I've focused on other people's credibility. This particular book, Credibility Nation, is the results of interviewing 500 thought leaders on what is credibility. And so the numbers, the statistics, I think maybe it's harder in a cold email, but I think we settled on the final most important thing on the building trust is just say what you do and do what you say. Mm-hmm. And what happened, one of the stats I'll give in the, let me give you 2 statistics in the, that came out of the interviews. One was 2% of people have no integrity. They booked time on the interview and they didn't show up and didn't say why before or after, right? So by definition, so lack of credibility, I may not ever talk to them again, period, right? The one that, yeah, actually we'll do, let me give you 3. So we'll give you one more. 4% of the people came late to a live show. Can you imagine you being interviewed by the global credibility expert and you come after the hour for a live show to talk about your credibility, you think it's credible? Like 4% out of 500. This is not a small number, right? So to me, that's lack of training. And here's the craziest thing. 98% of the people I talked to could not articulate who they served and the pain point they addressed in 10 words or less. So let me just say, when I looked at your LinkedIn profile, Jack, your request said something, but when I looked at your LinkedIn profile, I knew who you served. And that built enough credibility with me for me to talk to you. And when I talked to you, guess what? You weren't a B2B slimy salesperson. You were somebody of
is that all you just don't is that where the bar is? Just don't be a slimy person and you're good.
Yeah, that's
it's more than that, right? It's more than that.
You have to have 42 accolades and drink a lot of Guinness, right? While living on cloud 9. But the bar is at the moment I could use somebody of this service. I feel that you'd be a good fit in the community. I want to get to know you.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I was looking at is you built enough trust that I wanted to get to know you. Clearly by this conversation, we like each other. So I like you. Our next conversation is how do we play together?
Look at that. Which of course is the whole purpose of this podcast. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
And it worked.
That would be not genuine, not well, pretty much the opposite of credible. So that's dubious. Right. There you go. No, that's a joke. But I'm curious. Where do you go for inspiration? Like at this level, you're publishing so many books. You're giving TED Talks. Like, where do you go for fresh ideas here?
Oh, Jack,
interviewing.
I have to tell you, I had a Napoleon Hill moment. So first, this will be a minute-ish. I'll try to do this quick. I had published about 600 books-ish by the end of 2017 when I did my first TED Talk, which is the title of my other book here, Being Seen and Being Heard as a Thought Leader. what I realized in preparing for the TED Talk is I was serving the wrong audience as a publisher. I wanted to not just publish books that other people wrote. I wanted to focus on busy, successful professionals who wanted more credibility with a book and didn't have time. So I became a done-for-you book publishing company, which is what we do now. 2018, I built the writing school, picked up 10 clients. 2019, I rebranded myself to global credibility expert. And 2 months after that, I had a Napoleon Hill moment, right? So the moment was, if I interviewed 500 thought leaders on credibility, just like Napoleon Hill, 500 millionaires on being successful, he came up with Think and Grow Rich. I figured I'd have a book. So I have the book. This is worth, you pick it up in Amazon. It's on Audible. It's like $5. It's a two-hour listen. It's worth reading. I got more than a book though. What I didn't recognize, Jack, is I ended up with that life mission. I never had a life mission before, right? And so the inspiration was I was able to be so significantly helpful for so many people that I realized that it's just we were being taught wrong. Even if you guys almost heard me say that potentially the metrics of more leads is not the right metric, even if that causes you to think a little bit more, I've done my job, right? And so for inspiration at the moment, talking to other people, actually talking to your clients when they complain about a service, even if they complain about it, there's probably something in there that will help you build your next service. So I would say the best thing you could do is be of service to others. I mean, if you could send an email, like that cold email, I'm focused on B2B marketing in this vertical. My client's having a hard time. Can I talk to you for a minute or ask you one question? That would get me, if you could tell me that would be a cold email that would work.
Cool. I have to ask, you booked 500 conversations with, let's call it successful people. Did email play a role in booking those meetings?
I did all LinkedIn automation for that. So all LinkedIn requests.
What's the secret? Yeah. How did you, I mean, you probably learned, if you booked 500 calls, you probably sent 5,000 messages if you were doing a kick-ass job.
Probably. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
what was the content? Like what message was it? Like what,
it's the same, it's the same thing we talked about. I'm running a podcast focused on thought leaders. So there's a website, Thought Leader Life. You could see the website, you could see the podcast. I would like to feature you and talk about your credibility. Yeah. If you say yes, and what happens, by the way, I created I'll love this, by the way. I created a 16, or you'll love this, hopefully. I created a 16-minute video on how to prepare for the 5-minute interview. Right? Because at the moment, I've turned that into a product. It's 5 questions in 5 minutes. Because we want people to know, like, and trust you. In this case, trust, know, like you. And so lots of people got value just from watching the video on how to prepare. If 98% of people cannot articulate who they serve and the pain point they address, just even thinking about that and having someone to talk to. The other thing I do, Jack, and Jeremy, this was good that you and I had some alone time up front, given it was the first time I met you. Part of what I do when we first get into the interview together is we spend time in the green room talking to each other, getting to know each other. So the purpose of a podcast is to get to know somebody and deliver value to the audience and potentially to each other. And most podcasters don't actually even recognize that. So in essence, it was.
Can I just add one thing? Yeah. Like 2 or 3 years ago, I did a summit, which was basically just interviewing people that were highly successful founders in the SaaS industry. And I got a lot out of that. I actually learned a lot of things because I basically got to ask them the question I wanted to ask them. And it was like, pure mentoring for me. It was just awesome. I got like a lot of things out of that.
So to answer your question, inspiration, yes. If you're saying, listen, I'm interviewing these number of people on this topic, I'd love to feature you. It's hard for lots of people to say no to that. Or it's easy for people to say yes to that.
Upfront value, of course. That's what people want as well.
an ego boost.
That's right.
And yeah, and very little cost to showing up for a short call, right? That is the benefit of, and look, I think that's brilliant. In order, like, you didn't just say, I'm writing a book, I'd like to talk to you for half an hour. When do you have time? That would have flopped, right? But you're like, let me go the podcast route and then through the book, as opposed to like what you say will be hidden from public until it's published, right? I mean, there was a lot of strategy involved in that. And look, you booked 500 calls. That's impressive, man. That's a lot.
We also repurpose content, right? So what happens is there are 3 different podcasts I present this on. We pull out from the 5-minute interview, we pull out 10 aha messages and send it back to the person. And then I have a platform called Aha That, where we share that content on social media. And I suggested to people we'll be sharing their content for the next 5 years. And so they get exposed to the processes and systems I put in place. Yeah. Right. And, the goal is to once they get to know me, they go, oh, yeah, would love to publish a book with you. Or yes, at this stage, it's now, hey, let's participate in this membership community based on you guys helped me decide to build this. Now let's play together.
That's a great soundbite. Mitchell, thank you so much. Though I think there was a few moments where we had a little bit of this in a good way. Love the conversation. And awesome. Look, I thought you had fresh ideas, which was really nice. What I was afraid of was, we'd interview a credibility expert who would say, yeah, you guys are pretty much there. But I think there was new stuff here for me. So, hey, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
After Mitchell. 222 interviews, I'm very happy to add a little bit more value.
Love it. Hey, tell our listeners where they can get more of Mitchell and Credibility Nation. Tell us where we can find you and what we should do next.
Go to credibilitynation.com. Sign up. It's $10 a month. The value we deliver is $97 a month. And what happens? Hey, if you don't like it, let me know. We'll change it. We'll refund. I mean, it's $10 a month. And what'll happen is you'll learn and get continually influenced on how to show up better credibly. And guys, just for you, I'm always looking for village leaders who want to run villages of people who are focused in a particular area. And I'd love to run a village on cold B2B email marketing.
There you go.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you so much. Great cast.
Thanks guys. Hey, this was fun. I loved it.